Hi, friends! Nice to see you again. My name is Nolly. Welcome to the Nolly and Trent Show. This here is...
My name is Binyam, and we are thrilled to have you. Today on the Molly and Friends Show, we are talking about something, Molly, that might seem a little unusual.
Oh, what are we talking about?
Today, Molly, we are going to be talking about suffering.
Oh, my. I know what suffering is, but why are we talking about suffering? It's a very sad subject.
I know it's a sad subject, Molly.
And I want to be happy.
I know, I want to be happy too. But you know, sometimes, Molly, it's really important that we are preparing for things before they happen. And this is one of those subjects that I think the best time to talk about it is when we are happy and we don't have the experience of suffering. Usually when people are suffering, Molly, you know, that's the worst time to talk about suffering. Do you know why?
Because they're sad?
Well, yes, they're sad, but in addition to their sadness, it's also more difficult to think about the experience when you're in the middle of it. The best time, I think, to talk about suffering and sadness and all these emotions that are rather challenging is when it's a good time like this, when we're not sad, when we're not suffering. When we talk about it now, when we start experiencing suffering, then it's easier because we actually know some ways of how to deal with it. But if we're in the middle of suffering, for example, Molly, let's say right now that I'd hurt my hand really bad and it was in such pain, and you came to talk to me about how to experience my suffering, my attention is not on what you're telling me. It's on the pain that I'm experiencing. Say someone really dear to me dies, say I have a really close friend, and I'm really suffering because I miss them. I don't want to hear about what it's like to suffer and how to do it in that moment. I want to experience the experience. So the best time, it seems, to talk about suffering.
Oh, I get it now. You want to talk about it when we don't need to feel it in our hearts.
Exactly, Molly. That's what I'm saying.
I see. Can you tell me what suffering is?
That's a great question. But before we do that, I will tell you what suffering means. But how do we usually start our show?
Oh, I know. We forgot to do our feelings check-in.
Well, I didn't forget, but let's go ahead and do our feelings check-in right now. Shall we do that, Molly?
Okay. I'm a little nervous about this topic because I don't exactly know what are we going to say about it, and I don't know how to suffer.
Thank you for sharing that, Molly. And that's why we're talking about it. We're talking about it so that we can actually start feeling a little bit of what suffering is and making sure that it's okay to feel those things. So I love that you said you're a little nervous to talk about this topic that you don't know very much about. That's very understandable.
And how are you feeling, Daniel?
Well, I'm feeling really excited because I have a dear friend coming for a visit, and I can't wait. I can't wait because this friend is leaving for a long time. So we're going to have a lovely visit after the podcast and then after I finish editing, and it'll be so great. So I'm feeling really excited right now.
I like that.
And anything else that I'm feeling, Molly? Let me just see here. I am also feeling, it's a little sad. I'm also feeling a little bit sadness because this friend is going to go away for a long time and I'm going to miss them. I'm going to miss them a lot. And so that's also how I'm feeling.
I get it. If you went away, I too would feel very, 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 very sad. And I think I would suffer because I want to be around you because I like what we do. You know, we're so good together.
I agree, Molly. We are good together, aren't we? We have a very long friendship, don't we?
We do. We've taught lots of classes, and we like to joke around, don't we? Speaking of which, I want to tell today's dad joke. Can I tell today's dad joke now?
All right, Molly. Please, what is the dad joke for today? I would love a good laugh before we talk about this very serious subject.
Okay. I got this. This is so good. I'm not going to laugh because I don't laugh at dad jokes, but this one is a really good dad joke. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you guys ready?
Okay, I think they're ready too, Molly. Go ahead and tell us a dad joke.
Okay. Why was the baby strawberry sad?
Why was the baby strawberry sad, Molly?
Because its parents were in the jam. Its parents were in the jam. Get it?
Oh my goodness, Molly. The parents were in the... I understand how you can hear that both ways, but oh my goodness, Molly, that's a good one. The baby strawberry was sad because its parents were literally in a jam. I'm going to use that joke again. Did you guys like that one? I thought that was pretty good. And I had to laugh, Molly. That was Far too good. That was really good.
Thank you. So, do you think that the baby strawberry was suffering?
Absolutely. If its parents were in a now we shouldn't laugh at someone else's suffering, but this is a joke. And oh my goodness, Molly, that was a good one. That was very clever.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're so funny, Molly. I really appreciate you. But speaking of suffering, let's go ahead and try to describe for our friends what suffering is. What do you think suffering is?
I think it's kind of like it doesn't feel good, does it?
It does not feel good. When we suffer, Molly, it's usually a sad thing. And so a lot of people, they struggle when they suffer.
Okay, so it doesn't feel good. It's kind of like pain, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of pain and suffering. There definitely is a lot of pain and suffering.
Oh, and then are there different kinds of suffering?
There most certainly are different kinds of suffering, Molly. Yeah, well, let's talk about it. There's some suffering that we have on the outside. For example, I'm not sure how many of you, our listeners, have had the same experience like I have. Maybe you're running on the road and you tripped and you fell and you scraped your knee and you said, ouch, that hurts. And you might even have a bleeding knee now and it has to get all healed up and clean and stuff, but it really hurts. Or how many of you guys have broken an arm or a leg or something? I bet I've never broken one of my bones, but I imagine it hurts a lot. You know the closest I came once, Molly?
Wait, what's that?
Well, once I dislocated my shoulder, and I've never experienced such tremendous pain. It was so painful. All the way to the hospital. I was in so much pain. So that was like suffering too.
So it is like pain. It's very much like pain?
Yeah, it's very much like pain. And so that's what we call physical suffering. The kind that affects your body and you're like, ooh, that hurt. And so that's one kind of suffering. And then there's another kind of suffering that isn't necessarily on the outside. You might not feel like you've, hurt your skin or broken a bone, but you feel this hurt on the inside.
On the inside?
Yeah. And I'm not talking about the kind of pain on the inside like, when your muscle hurts because you've worked out really hard or something. I'm talking about a different kind of pain. And this is what we call emotional suffering. And this is where, let's see here if I can give you an example. Let's say you were in the playground and the school bully came up to you and said something really mean, like you smell terrible or you are ugly or something like that.
Ooh, those are not nice words.
I agree with you, Molly. But let's say they said that to you. How would you feel?
Oh, gosh, I would feel so sad, and I would not be happy about that.
That's the other kind of suffering, Molly.
Oh, I see. So there's a different kind of suffering where it's on the inside, where it does not feel good at all?
You got it right spot on the ball, Molly. There's a kind of suffering that it's really painful. So there's different kinds of suffering. There's a physical kind of suffering, which is on your person. Maybe you hurt yourself in some way. And then there's a different kind of suffering that we call emotional suffering. And that's when something happens that makes you feel really sad. Let me give you some of my examples, may I?
Okay.
So this one time when I was young, Molly, we had some family friends and they brought us balloons. And I mean, cute. How many of us don't love balloons, especially when we're kids? We love balloons. But there was something special about this balloon.
Oh, what was it?
Well, Molly, this balloon, when they blew up this balloon, it was as big as I was. I got one, and my brothers also got balloons that were as big as they were, and it was so cool. It was amazing. However, do you know what happened?
What happened?
Well, my balloon popped.
Oh, your balloon popped?
It did.
The one that was as large as you are?
That's the same one, Molly. It popped. And can you imagine how I felt?
I would have felt so sad. Were you sad? You must have been so sad. It was as big as you are, and that's the biggest balloon you've ever seen?
That's exactly right, Molly. It was the biggest balloon I'd ever seen, and when it popped, I totally felt sad. I think I may have even cried too. It was so terrible, Molly. I wasn't happy that it had happened, but it happened. And so, of course, I felt really sad on the inside because I was going to miss this balloon. Now, Molly, of the two kinds of suffering that we described, do you think this was emotional suffering or physical suffering?
What do you guys think? It was it wasn't his body that got hurt.
Nope, it wasn't my body.
That he felt sad afterwards.
That's right.
So this must be emotional suffering.
That's exactly right, Molly. I had emotional suffering because my balloon popped and I felt so sad. It was on the inside, right? Can you give me an example, Molly, of when you've experienced some suffering?
Okay. Let's see here. I remember one time when I was playing on the field with my friends, and then the one girl, she said, I want to invite all of you to my house for a party. But then she said to me, but not you, Molly.
Oh my goodness. How did you feel then, Molly?
I cried. It was not fun. It made me feel really sad.
I can see that, Molly. I'm really sorry. I see how that caused you to suffer, and that's suffering. Kids, what kind of suffering do you think Molly experienced when her friend didn't let her come to her party? If you said emotional suffering, you're right. That was emotional, wasn't it, Molly?
It was. It did not feel good. Even today when I remember, it still feels sad.
Thank you for telling me that, Molly. That's a sad thing, isn't it? And even as you share how that made you feel sad, I'm still grateful, Molly, that you can talk about it, even though it was sad. Because the reality is that suffering is a part of all of our lives. I don't think there's a single person who does not go through suffering. All of us, we suffer in some way or another.
Is that so?
That's true, Molly. That's what I think. And when we see someone who is suffering, what might be some clues?
Oh, I know. They might be crying like I was just now. I was just crying right now a little bit.
And that's okay. You know, I cry too, right, Molly? There's so many times when I cry, and sometimes people feel uncomfortable when they see someone crying because they know they're suffering, but they don't know what to say. So yes, you can tell that someone is suffering maybe because they're crying. How else?
Maybe they look really sad and they're quiet and they don't talk to many people and they sit by themselves.
That's a lot of that. I think you're right on the ball there, Molly. Yeah, you're totally right. So that is all true. Now, even though suffering is part of what everyone experiences at some point, it's important to note that suffering is okay. It's kind of like being sick or getting hurt. It's okay to experience suffering. In fact, all of us are going to experience suffering at some point in our lives. And as we experience suffering, the real important point is to be able to get through the suffering. We can't skip over suffering, and it's not fun when we have to suffer, but the fact that we are suffering, it's important to be able to say, how do I take care of myself now? I know I'm suffering, but how can I look after myself in this moment? And that's a really important point. And one of the things we could do is
Oh, I know.
What is it, Molly?
We could talk to someone that you trust, about it, your friends, or maybe you're like someone you trust who's grown up. They could help you, right?
That's a really good point. Yes, you're totally right on all that, Molly. Now, even though suffering is a part of all of our lives, it's also important to know that we have people around us who love us, who care for us, and who want to help us feel happy. Sometimes when we're suffering, we think we're the only ones suffering all by ourselves and we want to be by ourselves. But the best thing to do is to go talk to someone so that they can also show you how much they care for you and how much they love you and how much they want to
be a part of your life.
That's right, Molly. That's so true. And so, you could also ask questions. You could share some of your experiences. We'd love to hear some of your questions on this topic of suffering. So write down in the comments, and we'd love to be able to respond to those if you feel comfortable sharing. But it's important to know that when people are suffering, to be kind to them, to be understanding, to care for them, to look after them. That's also important. Molly, we have just enough time for one more joke. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. Let me tell you. Okay, ready? How did the snow globe feel after an earthquake?
How did the snow globe feel after an earthquake?
It felt all shaken up.
That was a good one, Molly. I do enjoy that one. Let's tell our friends our final message, shall we, Molly? Go ahead.
Dear friends, you are kind, you are smart, and you are so important to us. Thanks for watching our show. Bye for now.
See you guys soon.